as we reactivate the spirituality of our bodies, we find the possibility of beginning to engage our sexual experience or our sexual practice as spiritual practice. And so that's what I then teach, is if sexuality is the spirituality of the body, then therefore every sexual occasion is a spiritual occasion. And so therefore sexual activity is spiritual activity. So therefore, if you truly wish to practice spirituality at the very, very core level of the creativity and the creative force of the human being, then your most essential spiritual practice has to be sexual practice. And if we are going to participate actively in evolving a conscious human being on this planet, then the most essential place at which we need to become conscious is in our sex. Because if we're not conscious in our sex, we're going to keep creating polarized, identified human beings. And in that, there is simply no possibility of an authentic, conscious human being pitching up on this planet. And when we take responsibility and acknowledge, rather, we don't need to take responsibility, but when we acknowledge that we are responsible for that, if we are going to bring about conscious, co-creative human beings as children on this planet, we have to begin with ourselves. And we have to do the necessary work to free ourselves of our identification. And we have to start by reclaiming our breath. As we reclaim our breath, we can then start to learn what it means to actually circulate breath, what it means to circulate sexual energy through the body. We can begin to then experience how that enlivens the body and revitalizes the body and heals the body and all that. And my experience with most people just in mainstream is they don't need to be told this is going to happen, that's going to happen, that's going to happen, that's going to happen. They simply need to be taught to breathe properly and then be taught to be true in their sexing, and the rest will actually simply happen. They'll notice for themselves that they're feeling healthier. They'll notice for themselves that they're more radiant. They'll notice their friends will be commenting to them, that, oh, you're glowing today. Well, of course, we all know what happens when you're glowing, what happened last night if you're glowing in the morning, or what may have happened this morning if you're glowing when you kind of emerge from your house into your world. And so for me, as I see it, is we have to bring conscious sexuality out of the dark. We have to bring it out of the place of ignorance. We have to bring it out of the place of specialness. We have to bring it out of the places that make it so difficult to reach, so that people can actually find themselves in it, so they can reach it more easily. And the deepest yearning and what everybody wants more of is the glow. And the glow takes care of itself as a function of pulse and flow. And then in the recognition of what may, as we engage in the flow, I encourage you to notice what obstructs that flow. And if there are obstructions in that flow, or obstructions to that flow, I say, take it into the flow with you. Until you have done the work in the sexing of the body, you have not been a good gardener. Any good gardener knows to pull out the weed, you've got to pull it out at the root. If you chop it off above the ground, it grows stronger and stronger and stronger and stronger. And the problem with processing without sexing it in the body is that you grow a stronger root in all of your stuff, because all your stuff is rooted in the sexuality of the body. All of it. And so, people they kind of do the stuff that they do, and then they come to the place and they say, well, you know what, you really haven't done any work. You've processed plenty, and you may feel pretty good, but if you want to feel good, eat an ice cream. If you want to get real and be true, you have to uproot it. And you don't need therapy to uproot it. You simply need conscious, co-creative sexing with an intimate partner, whoever that may be. And immediately things start to shift. So I've kind of run out. There is one. There is another point that it's rising. So one of the questions that has come up with people is, how do I do this? I've got such trust issues. I'm so wounded in my capacity to trust. So I introduced the next tenet of TrueSex, and the next tenet of TrueSex it's a tenet and a teaching that I lived with for about 7 years, and I'm still living with. And that statement is, trust, surrender itself until you surrender trust itself. There's no requirement to trust another, because the other that you're attempting to trust is, in fact, the reflection of your own inner masculine or feminine, your own inner man or woman, whichever it may be. So therefore, do not make trust about your partner. Give your trust to surrender itself. Because in engaging any path of spirituality, the heart of that path is surrender. And so trust surrender itself. Trust the action of surrender itself. And as you just keep surrendering, and you keep surrendering, and you keep surrendering, and you just keep surrendering, and you keep trusting the surrender, it's going to get pretty hectic. You're going to find all the rapids, you're going to find all the waterfalls, but you're going to get to the ocean, and when you get to the ocean, you surrender trust itself. And you're free. I was actually rather, I wouldn't say I was disturbed, but I was amazed, because when I ran the first TrueSex about 2-3 months ago in Zimbabwe, I had 38 people in the room. And I started with asking each person to simply introduce themselves by speaking their name and one word that sums up how they currently feel about sex, sexuality, and intimacy in their lives. Out of the 38 words, I wrote them all up on a flip chart. Out of the 38 words, there were 2 words that could be called positive. All of the other words were negative. And so as I inquired into that, what I discovered was that most people felt that emotion was an obstacle to intimacy in their lives. That it was an obstacle to engaging sex and engaging their sexuality and engaging intimacy in their lives. And my recognition is, no, that just marks the point where your deepest tension lies. That's your deepest refusal to allow love to flow. So therefore, you can see this as, you can engage this emotion and you can bring it into your being because it's there already. And you can either see it as the obstacle or you can see it as the doorway. You can see it as your invitation. And so therefore, take that, find your pulse, reclaim your breath, and take that emotion into the flow with you. You don't have to be functional to flow. You don't have to have your shit together to flow. Take it with you. Take it into the sexing itself with you. Then you're going to uproot it.